There's something just magical about flying. Looking down at the entire world from 30,000 feet, seeing the clouds right there next to you, or the stars above, it's an absolute modern marvel that connects us all. So, how do we hold on to that magic, while also protecting the very planet it lets us see? That's the huge question, the central challenge facing the future of air travel.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? I mean, so many of us feel this way. I know I do. We love the experience. We love the way it connects us to people and places. But there's a flip side to every boarding pass.
Yeah, every single flight we take has an environmental cost. Some experts figure that air travel is responsible for up to 5% of all human-caused global warming. And think about this. As other things like cars and trucks get cleaner, aviation's slice of that pie is just gonna get bigger.
This has actually sparked a whole cultural movement, especially over in Europe, called flyskam. It's a Swedish word for flight shame. It's this growing feeling that, hey, in a climate emergency, maybe we should be flying a whole lot less. It's gotten so serious that France has even banned short domestic flights if there's a good train alternative.
Wow, that's a really powerful statement from NASA climate scientist Peter Kalmus. And he walks the walk. He actually stopped flying completely way back in 2012. His argument is basically, look, if we really accept that we're in an emergency, then maybe things like non-essential flying just shouldn't be on the table.
But you can bet the aviation industry has a different take. They argue that flying is absolutely essential to the global economy. So for them, the answer isn't grounding all the planes. No way. It's about greening them. The challenge isn't to stop traveling, it's to decarbonize it. So how in the world could they do that?
All right, the first and most immediate path forward is all about the fuel, specifically something called Sustainable Aviation Fuels, or SAFs. This is the one solution that could be rolled out the fastest, using the exact same planes we already have today.
So how do you make this stuff? Well, you start with waste materials. We're talking things like used cooking oil, agricultural leftovers, that kind of stuff. And you refine it into a fuel. And what's interesting is one chemical engineer, Kurt Studebaker, says that once you get it right, it's actually a better fuel than standard kerosene. It just burns cleaner. But, and this is a huge but, there's a massive hurdle, the cost. Right now, these sustainable fuels cost anywhere from 2 to 6 times more than conventional jet fuel. For an industry with famously thin margins, that's a gigantic economic barrier.
And that high cost leads directly to the second big problem: scale. Today, sustainable fuels make up well under 0.1% of the 95 billion gallons of jet fuel burned in a typical year. It's barely a drop in the ocean.
So how do you scale it up? Well, the industry is stuck in a classic chicken or egg situation, right? Without big demand from airlines, there is no incentive for producers to ramp up supply. But with such a tiny, expensive supply, it's really hard to get that demand going. So the solution is probably going to have to be political. It could be a carbon tax, or, and this is what the industry generally seems to support, a mandate, a rule that says a certain percentage of all jet fuel has to be sustainable.
Okay, so changing the fuel is one thing. But a much more radical approach is to completely rethink the airplane itself. And that leads to some designs that look like they're straight out of science fiction. I mean, just look at this thing. This is the Airbus Maverick concept. It's what's called a blended wing body, which basically means the entire plane acts like one giant wing. This design drastically reduces aerodynamic drag and could, get this, lead to a mind-blowing 40% reduction in fuel use compared to the planes we fly in today. But, of course, there's a catch. A truly game-changing new airliner like this takes many, many years to develop. And then even more years to pass the gauntlet of incredibly strict safety tests required for certification. So while the design is really promising, it's definitely a long-term play.
So if better fuels are for today and new plane designs are for tomorrow, what about the day after tomorrow? What's the moonshot? Well, the most ambitious goal of all is to move beyond emissions entirely, to get to truly zero-emission flight.
And right now, the two leading contenders for that are hydrogen and electricity. But they seem to be for very different things. Hydrogen is being looked at as the future for big, long-haul airliners, while electric power is probably better for short-range trips, like little air taxis. and each one has its own major technical hurdle to clear.
Airbus has already announced plans to develop hydrogen-powered plants, which is pretty incredible. Their only major byproduct would be simple water vapor. But the holy grail here, the thing that makes it all work, is creating green hydrogen using clean electricity. The problem is, today, most hydrogen is still produced using fossil fuels, which kind of defeats the whole purpose, right?
Electric flight, on the other hand, is already starting to happen, and it ranges from these futuristic ideas like Wisk Aero's self-flying air taxis, basically an Uber in the sky, all the way to super practical applications, like a company called Harbour Air in Canada. They're literally just swapping out the old gas engines on their commuter seaplanes for new electric motors.
And this quote from Harbour Air's CEO really gets to the core of it. He says, look, this isn't just some environmental dream. He's a businessman. He's doing this because cleaner technology will eventually lower his operating costs, and that means lower ticket prices for everybody. That's a powerful economic incentive.
Okay, so we've looked at new fuels, brand new planes, and completely different power sources. How does this all fit together? What's the actual flight path to a greener future?
So let's just lay it all out. Sustainable fuels, they're ready to go now, but they're held back by cost and scale. Radical redesigns in short-range electric planes, those are near-term possibilities, but they're stuck behind long certification processes and the simple weight of batteries. And true, long-haul hydrogen power, that's still a long-term goal, and it depends completely on our ability to produce it cleanly.
And all of this brings us right back to where we started. There is an incredible technological race happening right now to save aviation from itself. The innovation on the horizon is amazing, but it all comes down to this one final critical question. Can technology get us there fast enough? Or does the real solution also lie with us in confronting our own travel habits and maybe, just maybe, embracing a little bit of that flugs come after all?